Let's get to our next discussion. University workers and the federal government have been at loggerheads over unfavorable work conditions. The strike embarked upon by the Academic Staff Union of Universities has now crossed 3 months, with government threatening a no work, no pay policy, while the workers are insisting a no pay, no work policy. The workers under the National Association of Academic Technologists said that laboratories, workshops, farms and others would remain shut till the government pay their salaries. That is the crux of our discussion. Now, joining me via Zoom is Public Affairs Analyst Abayomi Ashewaju, as well as Adekunle Adedeji, Managing Director, Imagine Business Services. Gentlemen, good morning. It's good to see you both.
Mike.
Oh. Okay. Now, let me start with you, Abayomi Ashewaju. This issue of a back and forth between labor unions or striking workers and the federal government, especially when it gets to the level of, okay, if you don't work, you won't get paid and all of that. One would say that they've been through this for so long to understand what the terms usually should be. What do you make of this back and forth?
All right, thank you, Mike. I think every or any serious nation will pay attention to three major institutions in their country. That's in no particular order: education, health, and security. These three key institutions are very, very important to any serious nation. So if we are treating the educational system or the educational institution in Nigeria the way we are doing, I wonder what the future holds for us, because the ASU on its own feels that the government will be sensitive to their needs if they actually go on strike, knowing fully well that education plays a major role in the development of any nation. So they feel that their sensitivity will make them, make government at least dance to their tune or yield to their demands. But unfortunately, I'm not pretty sure that we have a government, not even just this government, because they've been on this for quite a while, just like you have established. They don't seem to be so sensitive to the future, because, of course, education is key to the future. What we are seeing today is not something we should be proud of as a country, where we repeatedly have our students at home, due to issues that could be resolved between two major stakeholders. What are we talking about here? Why can't they just reach a consensus? Why can't they just, reach a compromise and then shift grants for themselves, if not for anything, for the future of this country, which, of course, is not unrelated with our youth who are currently undergraduates. So for me, I think I just want to appeal to the federal government to please, at least, pay attention to education. It is very key. Public education. We should not say because some of our own kids and children are not in public institutions or public schools. Even some are not even in this country, and for that reason, we should not be sensitive to the needs of Nigerians in respect to education. So my plea is to the federal government to please shift grants and ensure that for the sake of our youth, for the sake of our future, let them yield to the demands of ASU. Thank you.
All right, Adekunle, one would say that there is no year that runs by without having one strike action somewhere, or in an industrial action, one place or the other, one union or another union, either in one state or at the federal level, and all of that. Would there ever be a time where we'll be talking about other things and not issue of payment of salaries, issues of owing this and owing debts and moving on? Can we really get there?
Well, I'm hoping we'll get there, Mike. I'm really hoping, but not on the current, structure that we have or how we run country, as it were. So there are many issues today. There's the issue of, whatever you consider to be very important, you find a way to meet the needs of it. And that's the way I say it. When COVID came, we all saw how governments, different parastatals, industry, ministries, private, and public came together to ensure that we found a way to keep ourselves going. So what we currently have is a case where one rules and policy that allows people, to say if you are a civil servant or you are a public office holder, you can't send your kids outside the country to school. I bet you, Mike, in the space of 5 years, we will fix the educational problems, right? Because it's a case of revenue and what you spend. Federal government has certain amount of money, and there are many things that it needs to cater for. So in order of priority, then you need to begin to look at where you need to spend what. And I've never seen any institution in Nigeria that works in isolation of the private sector. So maybe what we begin to need to do is to find a way to plug in the private sector into our educational system. So that, because in every country, education is not cheap. If you go outside the country, but they are funded by mostly private institutions who this university helps to solve their problems. I imagine universities solving problems in the financial space. The bank will come to support in infrastructure development, solving problem in FMCG, in manufacturing. So, but waiting on government to fund the educational system, their priority, it doesn't seem to me that that is their priority as of now. It's unfortunate, but it's what we have.
All right. Now, Ashwaju, talking about the issue of autonomy for educational institutions, public educational institutions. This has also been on the front burner for a while, but it seems it's not going to be achievable anytime soon because we compare these our situations here to other climes in the West where institutions and universities and polytechnics that are even public don't solely depend on the government to run.
Oh, okay, fine. I think in the past they've tested that model where autonomy has been given to some schools to run their affairs. But of course, we've always had this issue of managerial challenge where funds are not funds that are appropriated are not spent, and there is always issue of corruption here and there. But all these things can still be worked out, or we can actually. For me, just like my colleague said, that we should try and bring in the private sector to see how they can have a robust handshake with the government, so that education, of course, cannot be entirely free, but at the same time, people can actually pay for value. You understand? At least tertiary institutions, people should be ready to pay for value, and I think that's what some parents are getting in the private schools where they take their kids to. Because of course, we will be happy to enroll a child into a school where he or she is supposed to spend 4 years or 5 years maximum, and they end up spending 7-8 years. And it's not as if after graduation they would solve societal problems. It's not as if after graduation they will have a sound job waiting for them. Is they will still have to go and queue and all that. So if government can see a way of incorporating the private sector, to see how we can run our educational system in such a way that there will be value for money, I'm pretty sure that Nigerians wouldn't mind. They will pay, and as long as they are getting value for money. So talking about the autonomy, well, if in the past they've seen that the management of some of these schools cannot manage their funds well and even deliver as expected, then probably we should see the possibility of incorporating the private sector.
All right, Adedeji, at least from reports, we have seen the federal government establish brand new universities, fresh universities across the geopolitical zones. And some stakeholders have come out to say that the federal government has not been able to adequately maintain and sustain the universities right now. Why establish new ones? Well, others argue that, of course, we need more educational institutions in the country. What do you make of that, though?
I mean, so it boils down to the same issue. What was the purpose for those universities in the first instance? They were pretty much political moves, to satisfy certain, certain areas or certain zone to ensure that you have a uniform number of universities. I mean, this national quota kind of thing doesn't have to be displayed in every aspect of our lives, right? you have 3 kids that you can't take care of adequately, but because your wife is asking for more, you choose to have that. It doesn't make any commercial sense, right? So we will continue to have this issue as long as and on the current structure of government that we have. Remember, I mentioned that our parity as a government, or the parity of government, is not in education, because it's not a revenue generating an establishment, quote and unquote, right? The day you make education promising, the day you incorporate the private sector, I mean, after all, we have private universities that are running well and they are profitable. So it's a function of interest and what you are willing to put into it. In the scale of things and priority for federal government is just to meet the quotas. South must have a university, Southwest must have a university, and whatever. And you create these institutions without having adequate infrastructure or resources to be able to cater for them. As long as we continue to run this quota system, we would always have these problems.
All right. Abayomi, like Adedeji has said, private universities are running. They don't expect funds from the federal government or any government, and they run. They source for their funds and so on. And some of them are even new relative to some of the public universities that have been on ground, many years even before. So what are the private universities doing separately to attract funds and keep sustaining themselves that the public universities can't do?
Okay, I think firstly, for private universities, it's strictly business. And they do say that ordinarily, government has no business running business. And for private institutions, they take their school as purely a business venture, and they run it as such. So that's why they are getting the results. You see the proprietor of the school is much more interested in research, is much more interested in results, and it's much more interested in value. You understand? Because it's also competitive. But unfortunately, public schools, we care less about value, we care less about even research that ordinarily higher institutions should be known for. I cannot recall any research that has been used by any of our public universities to solve societal problems in recent times. And these are some of the challenges that we have in our public institutions. So for a proprietor of a private school, he knows that he's running a competitive business. He wants to outsmart the other person. He wants more students for himself. So definitely he would employ all strategies that will make his university or higher institution stand out among the rest. But for public institutions, they are not in any competition with any other public school. So it is either it works or it does not work. Their salary is guaranteed. But for private institutions, even some of their lecturers, some of their staff they expect that they will be appraised one day, and they always work towards that, and that determines, of course, their promotion and upgrade at their workplace. So they will definitely give in their best. So that is what differentiates.
Okay. All right. Now, Adekunle, before I let you go, what scenarios do you see going forward from here? The point there is, as we're seeing the university, workers in the university are on strike, and the academic union, for instance, are on strike. And there is still the issue of meeting with government, agreeing on what should be and what should not be, and so on. What scenarios do you see going forward?
I think, first of all, they will come to a compromise, like they always do, which is go back to, the classroom, certain amount of money will be paid, and then we'll come again and we'll visit it. I see a situation where if by 2023 we'll get the situation right, for the first time, maybe we may have leaders who begin to think, differently in our educational sector and generally in every sector. I mean, the same problem you have in education is what you have in health, is what you have in whatever. You see, health and all these private institutions are working because they've seen what is not working in the federal environment or federal system. So what I think will most likely happen is until we will find a leader who is very pragmatic, who has commercial proficiency or dexterity, then we'll be able to find a change where we'll come together, whether ASU, whether federal government, whether private sectors, until you get the private sector involved in the educational system in Nigeria. Government alone cannot fund that institution. Government do not have what it takes to fund that institution. Government is not interested in funding that institution.
Okay. Thank you very much. Adekunle Adedeji, Managing Director, Imagine Business Services. Thank you very much for talking to us on the program today.